And we'll move on to the agenda. And apologies for absence and declaration of substitute members, please.
Thank you, Madam. There is an apology from Councillor Jim Lord.
Thank you. Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. None. Public participation. To deal with any questions or brief presentations from members of the public in accordance with the Seaford Town Council policy and local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus, flexibility of local authority of police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales regulations 2020. Any members of the public like to speak at this time? No. If any members of the public would like to speak before each application is called out, you can do so. Item 4, planning applications. Planning applications received week commencing Monday the 26th of October 2020, LW/20/0700, 16 Corsica Road, ground and first floor extensions with alterations. So, any members of the public like to comment on this application? If not, I open it to the committee. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Honeyman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's quite an interesting property in a way because of where it is. It's fairly historical. I'd say it's basically filling in the gap really for a fairly substantial house. It's on a corner property with Morris Road, so I'd support it.
Thank you. And does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Edson. Did you want to speak on this as well?
No, I think Richard's said exactly what I was going to say.
Jeff? Can you unmute yourself, please?
There is a objection posted about loss of privacy from, I think, 56 Fitzgerald Avenue.
Yes.
That property is actually diagonally opposite across the crossroads of Fitzgerald Avenue, Corsica Road and Morris Road. So some distance from the property. And although this property, these proposals include a balcony, I don't think really you could say that it does cause an overlooking problem for the garden of 56 Fitzgerald Avenue, because that garden is overlooked by several upper floors of properties around that crossroads. And as Councillor Honeyman has said, it is just a small infill with it's relatively small balcony. It's not the sort of balcony that's going to get a lot of use, like a decking area at first floor level. And but perhaps if it's probably in the proposals also to use obscure glass for the balcony, because that's the common practice for this sort of balconies. But we could perhaps mention that the need for obscure glass to be used, just to make sure that that we've noted the points about loss of privacy for the house opposite. But I don't think they're significant enough to create any concerns about approval. If that's okay.
Yeah, that was just my only concern, was to, mention about having obscure glass to, try and address the neighbours' concerns. Is that all right, Councillor Honeyman? Yes.
Yes, because as you say, yes, Chair. It's obviously it's front to front as well. So it's slightly less. You could argue you have slightly less privacy in the front of your property anyway, don't you, compared to your back the property. So, yeah, I absolutely fine to mention that, Chair.
Thank you. And that's all right with you, Councillor Edson, as a seconder? Yep. Any other comments? We've put it to the vote to support this application with the clause of obscured glass on the balcony, please. Can you show your hands?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all in favour.
Thank you.
That's unanimous.
Supported. LW stroke 20 stroke 0565 3 Chinkton Way. Demolition of existing property and erection of 2 by 4 bedroom detached houses. As you can see, this is planning officers put some notes on the agenda. As they have tried to address some of the comments from the previous application. Jeff, would you like to speak on this first?
Yes, I put some notes on the agenda because it was obviously only considered by the committee 6 months ago. It's just to remind the committee of the previous decision. And what happened after that decision was, I think the case officer at Lewes District Council explained the concerns of the town council to the applicant, and I think to a large extent backed up those concerns, and probably intimated that she would have to recommend a refusal, and so the applicant decided to withdraw the application. This was around about April or May this year, and tried to deal with the concerns that have been raised by amending the plans in the areas that have been mentioned. And as you see, the plans have come back. There are 20 objections, which is quite a number, recorded on the website, and 3 letters of support. I've just lost my agenda. Oh, here it is. I've got it back. The plans have been amended, and the concern about the rear building line encroaching beyond the rear building lines of the properties adjacent to it in Chinkton Way and bringing it closer to bringing the development closer to the properties in Cookmere Road. It's been dealt with by drawing the rear boundaries in to align with the neighbouring properties in Chinkton Way. The bulk of the 2 properties proposed has been reduced slightly by a reduction at first floor level above the front doors, so it had to have a sloping roof rather than the bulk of a front floor, a first floor above the front porch. So in other words, having a slope rather than a corner. And the concern about the access to the island or roundabout adjacent to the property, that has been dealt with by an enlargement of the parking area by that access to enable cars to turn and therefore to drive in and drive out forwards onto that traffic island, which could be regarded as a bit of a hazard because of the lack of visibility around it. So it's more an island than a roundabout, but it could also be described as a large roundabout. There's also been concern about the fate of the tree that's on the corner there as well, expressed by some of the residents. It's interesting to note the differences. The officers, I've taken up the point with the case officer because the applicant did say that the case officer, that they'd had pre-application discussions, and the case officer appeared to be happy with the way they dealt with the points of concern. But I've spoken to the case officer myself, or had an email exchange with her, and she says, well, you know, they did have a discussion. the case officer pointed out the areas of concern. These plans have come back, but the officers will obviously have to look at the plans once they've received our comments and the responses to the other consultations, obviously in the residents' objections. Once that consultation period has expired in a few days' time, the case officer will then have a look at it. So I don't think the case officer has actually committed herself to supporting the plans, but all she said is that the plans appear to have been amended in the areas where she raised concerns prior to the withdrawal of the first scheme. So that explains that. I think the problem still is that it's given the scale and character and the plot sizes of the other properties on this side of Chington Way, it's the plot. There hasn't been obviously any expansion of the plot, and fitting 2 houses onto the plot where this large bungalow now stands is still going to be extremely difficult or even impossible to get plot sizes to enable properties of the same scale and character as the rest of Chington Way to be put there. And it is a very prominent corner. And in a way, the ideal situation would be for another substantial property to go there as a corner property to complement the rest of Chington Way. The objection, there's 20 objections which obviously have to be looked at very carefully. Most of them refer to the special character of Chington Way and the way that the plot sizes of these 2 proposed houses, although they are adequate in themselves in isolation, compared to the plot sizes and the type of the character and scale of the houses in the rest of this side of Chington Way, they are smaller, and they do therefore affect the character of Chington Way. Chington Way is an area of special character designated in the local plan and the neighbourhood plan, both adopted in February, just before the first application was objected to by the committee. So, as I say, although the applicants have gone some way towards dealing with the concerns that this committee raised and the planning officer, I think, in my view, obviously members might take a different view, they haven't really gone far enough to deal with the concerns, and it will probably be difficult to provide 2 houses on this plot without affecting, as I say, the scale and the character of the rest of Chington Way. Although, you know, there are improvements, if you like, to the plans, especially with the design of the properties themselves, the way they've been scaled down. So I think if members have read the residents' objections, then they will be familiar with all those points, I'm sure, anyway. So I think that's all I need to say.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public like to comment on this application before I open it to the committee? No. So open to the committee. Who would like to lead on this application? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Chair. I can see that they've tried to address the issues that we had initially, but I don't think it's gone far enough. I think building 2 houses on that site, it just isn't big enough. And as it is a area of outstanding character, and it would put that, trying to think of the words.
Detrimental.
Be detrimental, that's it, against it, and go against our neighbourhood plan and local plans. So that's sort of, I think, the biggest one. I'm also concerned, yes, they've said they've extended the parking so they can turn cars inside, but it's only for 2 cars. If there's 2 houses, most houses have 2 cars, or a lot of them, so that's 4 cars, which means they wouldn't be able to turn around. So I still don't think that that's acceptable for it either. So I'll leave it there for now. See if anyone else wants to comment.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Edson.
Yeah, in itself, as Jeff said, the designs of the buildings are okay, but that was our concerns that you know, the dwelling was put there as a single-story building because of its position, and unless you replace a bungalow with another bungalow, I can't see any reason for agreeing to this, quite honestly.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Everton?
Yeah, I mean, I go up Chinkton Way all the time because we walk up there, and when you come round that corner, it's completely blind till you get almost round the traffic island to where that property is. So I'm not sure that having a driveway that comes out onto there is particularly safe. I don't know if that's been looked at, but I do know when you come round that, it is more of a traffic island really, but as you come round it, you're almost completely blind to anything that's on the other side of it. But it's just because it's one way, nothing will be pulling out on you. So if there's going to be a driveway there now, I don't know. That as you come up to it, there is a house, but you can see that house and its driveway. But when you come around the corner, you can't see anything else that's there. So it is a blind corner.
Councillor Honeyman?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I echo what Councillor Edson and Everton and Vaughan has said. I think in a way, I think you could almost replace the bungalow with a more substantial one house there, and then exit it on a slightly different drive. Probably do it that way if it was if maybe there was a bit more clarity off the sort of the roundabout. But I can see why originally that particular bungalow existing is there is because of where it is. So there we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Or just to follow up Councillor Everton's point, the Highway Authority, as this is a development of two houses, the Highway Authority would have been consulted, and but I don't think they've responded yet. So I think the consultation period probably expires in a few days' time. Highways Authority's comments haven't been posted as far as I'm aware. So we don't know exactly what the Highway Authority think, but obviously you're free to put your own views on the possible highway traffic hazards.
Yeah, I mean, I viewed the application this morning and there was nothing from the highways at that point. So, yeah, I've got my concerns. I still feel it should only be one dwelling. And I, you know, still think it's an overdevelopment for the area of this character. So we need a proposal and seconder, please. Jeff.
Just a final point I forgot, because it's such a controversial application and well, 20 objections and obviously quite a substantial application. After the problem we had with Fieldings last year, if you are to object to the agree to object to the application, you could add a message to Lewes District Council that we as a town council would want, if there's a recommendation to approve from the officers, we'd want it to go to committee, because it's quite a prominent application that's caused a lot of concern with a lot of objections, and with the rules on delegation being quite open nowadays, this is probably one where you would want to make sure that it goes to committee so it has a proper hearing before any decision is made. So that's just an additional suggestion for whoever proposes an objection in the case.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Right. Who would like to propose? Councillor Boorman?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we object to this application on everything that everyone said, being overdevelopment, obviously being in a special character so against our neighbourhood plan and Lewis local plan. Obviously, what else do we see? The issue with the entrance on driveway onto the roundabout or road. Any other things? I can't remember what we said now. And obviously Jeff's suggestion that if officers were going to accept it, then please can it go to the committee?
And just, you probably want to sort of add that you've given careful consideration to the amendments have been made since it was last dealt with by the committee. Obviously, we have done that because that's the basis of the application in a way. But I think that it'd be helpful if that was built into the resolution. If you agree with that, okay. It's sort of that it rounds things off. Okay.
Do you agree to that, Councillor Borman? Yeah, thank you. Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Edson. And put it to the vote, please. So can I have a show of hands objecting to this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a unanimous objection on those grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning applications received in week commencing Monday the 2nd of November. LW/20/06495 Barkham Close. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Borman.
Yeah, when I first read this, I thought there's a lot going on there. And I was like, can it be? But when I actually then looked at the plans, actually it's quite a large plot of land, and actually it doesn't look that big for the plot of land. So I'm quite happy to propose that we support this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Borman. Councillor Edson.
I agree entirely. I don't see we've got any reason to oppose this.
Okay, you second Councillor Borman's proposal. Councillor Argent, did you want to speak on this? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Oh, I said I was going to second that as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favour.
Thank you.
Is Councillor Honeyman voting at all?
He did show his hand, yes.
Sorry, yes, a bit unclear because on the reactions you've really got the thumbs up and the clap, so it's a bit, it's not ideal. No, all I was trying to say was obviously the summer house is not significant enough to make it like a separate dwelling. I don't think you really have to include that.
Oh yes.
I mean, I don't think it's big enough, but you may want to say that just as in passing. That's all I was going to say, really.
Yes.
We normally do put it in as a proviso these days, don't we? When we do.
I can't actually remember how big it was from the plan, but yeah, I mean, we could add it just if you wanted to. Whoever proposed it.
Councillor Borman.
I'm happy to add that.
Right. Just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So can I have a re-show of hands just to clarify that, please?
Thank you. So
Thank you.
summer house is used ancillary to the main dwelling and not as a separate dwelling. Right. Thank you.
Councillor Honeyman. LW/20/0670 97 North Way, erection of 2-storey side extension and mono-pitched roof to front elevation to replace existing roof. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? If not, open to the committee. who's going to lead on this? Councillor Argent?
Well, I've looked at it, and all it's doing is replacing what's already there, but with a sloping roof.
Yeah, thank you. Are you making a proposal?
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
propose we accept it.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Borman?
Yeah, I think having that pitched roof rather than a flat roof makes it actually more attractive.
It's the house next door has it. It's
Yeah.
the same as the house next door.
Thank you, Councillor Everton. So we'll put that to the vote in supporting this application.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's carried, supported unanimously.
Thank you. Planning applications received week commencing 9th of November. LW/20/0709 Sutton Corner Garage, Sheep Pen Lane. Demolition of existing garage workshop. Erection of a terrace of 3 houses and a single-storey dwelling. Resubmission of LW/17/0849. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? All right, open to the committee. Councillor Borman.
Yeah, obviously it's gone through a few times now, so I think we should support it again. But is there any way we can force them to actually do the work on this rather than just lapsing the permissions again and in 3 years' time then reapplying? I know it's costing them money to reapply every time, but can't we have these houses?
There's no real limit
No.
to the number of renewals. The applicant runs the risk of the local plan changing, you know, against them. But I think in this case, there's no real prospect of that. Where you've got a business, you know, obviously there might be a sort of need to keep the business going, and they might be looking forward to, say, 4 or 5 years' time. You know, they might have got the original consent as a sort of a pension, you know, and be looking ahead from 2014, you know, maybe 10, 15 years. It does cause a slight bit of uncertainty. You know, it's only a few houses, but it is frustrating. But the law allows them virtually to have an automatic renewal as long as they apply before the previous consent expires. And they've made sure to do that in both cases. There was some concern that I got an email from the local district council member, actually, concern about the way in which the construction is going to be carried out. But the officers had already covered this in the previous consent, because there needs to be a proper scheme for construction to be drafted and sent to the district council for approval before any development takes place, because of the constraints of the site and the difficulties in getting in and out and keeping surrounding residents safe and avoiding any nuisance to them. So there already was a conditional like that. I mean, you can sometimes add a few conditions, but you can't actually force somebody to take it up. I mean, I think the garage business is still going, so it's just often a family matter. You know, they've prepared the ground well in advance for when there's nobody left to run the business or something like that. So no, we have. As I say, they run the risk though of the plan going against them, but I don't think there's any prospect of local plan policies going against the development in the near future. So it'll just have to stay there, unfortunately.
Just be nice to have these size houses built, because they're sort of ideal for starter homes, aren't
Yeah,
they?
useful addition, but you know, that's it's up to the owners.
Yeah. Okay. Does that find a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Everton. And can I have a show of hands for supporting this application, please? Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 5, the Newlands development update. Nice that Bellways are, you know, being neighbourly and keeping residents, residents updated on what they're doing. Is there any comments on this? Everybody likes Councillor Edson? Can you unmute yourself, please, Councillor Edson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just an observation, really, but I noticed from that plan, you know, that they was talking about having a mini roundabout at the entrance, and it just seemed to me that if the mini roundabout was placed with the junction of Hartfield Road, then that mini junction, that mini roundabout would be on the apex of a bend, so you could see it from both directions. But when you look at that map, if you're coming from the corner, you know, you just almost a mini roundabout, you know, comes into view very late. It just seemed to me, I'm really, you know, I just don't understand why Highways didn't mention that.
Well, there was a lot of grief between the Highways Authority and Bellways over the treatment of that junction. The County Council always insisted on a mini roundabout. Bellways wanted sort of dummy traffic islands type of access, and Bellways won. The County Council won out in the end. I'm sure there's been a hell of a lot of work that's gone into the treatment of that junction, and that must, you know, from a traffic engineer's point of view, there must be a good reason that it's gone there, because it was one of the principal issues that was settled, if you like, before the detailed consent was given, you know. And Bellways almost sort of held out and objected, if you like, but in the end, I think relented to the County Council's view that it should be a mini roundabout because of the expense. I think that, you know, in the end, as I say, they relented. So there must have been some thought, a lot of thought that went into the siting of it. But I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'm assuming that must be the safest and best place for it. But I can see Councillor Edson's point about visibility. Yeah,
We'll soon find out.
yeah.
Councillor Argent?
Well, I think we've got a place to look at first, haven't we? When we look at the Bishopstone exit and entrance off of a main road. So I think possibly a roundabout there is an ideal situation.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? So I think we just asked to note the report, please. So noted?
Noted.
Yep. Okay. Lovely. Thank you. And then agenda item 6, update report. Consider report 97/20 of the planning officer on recent decisions made by LDC. And I think we're all in line of all the, you know, applications we supported, was also supported by the officers of LDC.
There's nothing to report there, really. Nothing special to report.
No. So if there's no comments, can I have a show of hands? Well, you know, acknowledge that we've noted the report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the meeting tonight.